What's up, everybody? We're back with another episode of 4th and Dynasty here on the Dynasty Pros YouTube channel.
There it is.
It's Brian and Cody. Look, it's 12 weeks. We're 11 weeks in, and I still haven't knocked off the rust, I guess. Who knows what's happening here? But Cody, you're here to bring us all the fun, all the information. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. How was? It's a little cold here. We finally got some snow, and the first snow day of the year.
Oh, look at that! All the way up there and near the almost the Great North. I can't believe it's weird how like we're in the same country and yet we're in different seasons. You're in winter and I haven't even hit fall yet. It was a lovely 70 degrees today.
Wow, we had 50-mile-an-hour wind today, so
hard pass on that. I used to live out in West Texas where there's like nothing to stop the wind, and yeah, that was like regular for us having like 40-50-mile-an-hour wind. I don't miss that at all.
Yeah, it gets old, that's for sure.
Yeah, speaking of old, look at us talking about the weather on a football podcast. Folks, what are we doing here? What are we doing? So much madness happened this past week. And well, I guess not so much, but you know, just enough if you're a Jets fan. We got to dig right into it because the first thing here, head coach gone, OC still there, but he's not calling plays. General manager Joe Douglas, he's gone. He's out of there. I mean, I see your note here in the doc. I know exactly what you're alluding to here, but go ahead, Cody. Let's dive into it. First thoughts on the situation.
Man, what a dumpster fire the Jets are, huh? And then what came out today about Woody Johnson wanting to bench Aaron Rodgers in week 4, and just like that guy needs to get out of there. Stop meddling. It's the Jerry Jones effect. Don't be a Jerry Jones.
Jim Irsay effect.
Yeah, that too. So, but yes, my note is A-Rod has the chance to do the funniest thing ever. Now, granted, it's not the same thing because we didn't have a rookie quarterback waiting in the wings when Brett Favre came. But the trajectory is kind of the same.
Look, I've done a couple shows today. We've had these same questions, talk about where could he go. And JJ McCarthy's young. I know coming into the season he was 21. He might be 22 now, but 21 years old. He could sit another year. We've seen tons of quarterbacks do well with it, and Aaron Rodgers did it himself. So if he heads, I mean, I imagine he's going to try and play one more year. The Jets have no more guaranteed money. It looks like they're trying to split ways as they should. They need to take a quarterback with that top 10 pick, and I can't imagine Aaron Rodgers is going to let them do that with him on the team. So
can he put his ego aside and just realize that he's at the end of his career? He's not the same. So let the coach run the plays and let Justin Jefferson just run you open, because you can get Justin Jefferson. Anyone can get Justin Jefferson the ball, and that's been proven.
And this is a lot better skill players than he's dealt with over there. You know, you have Addison and Hawkinson as well over there.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Naylor is nothing to flinch at for a wide receiver 3. It's
yeah, I'm out of here.
But yeah, like the running backs, Aaron Jones, you know, he'll be gone. Ty Chandler clearly doesn't seem to be the back of the future, so you need to add a piece there. But overall, those are way better weapons, and it's the offensive line. Because I talked to a guy on another show I did today, and he was talking about, hey, maybe he just walks across the locker room to the Giants. But he's going to the exact same situation.
He really
good
is.
Defense, one stud receiver. I mean, they've got Devontae Adams out there they traded for. But, you know, going into the situation, one stud receiver, pretty good running back there. I mean, obviously, Breece Hall is great. But, you know, Tyrone Tracy's good. And then a crap offensive line. So he's going to have the same issues if he goes in the Giants. But would that not be just the most tension you'd ever seen in a building is if he stays there at MetLife?
I would love that. We would need the Hard Knocks offseason to be with the New York Giants again.
Right. Send them right back over there.
It would have to be, because that would be amazing. But speaking of back to being in the lineup and all that kind of stuff, Anthony Richardson's back and he looked pretty good.
Look, this was the whole reason I was willing to give our coach Shane Steichen a pass this season. No matter what happens, I was okay with coming back to him. Sure, let's put the GM under scrutiny, maybe the quarterback after a full season with him, but I believed that he had the skill that he could. Now, some of these decisions over the last month and a half have me questioning him. Also, it could have been coming from higher up. You know, our owner, he's known to pop a pill or two, so he could be really pushing the hand of the head coach to make him bench Richardson. But At this point, this is how he built the game. Jonathan Taylor was atrocious this past week, 2.38 a carry in week 11, but he still ran it 24 times for the 57 yards, and that's how Richardson's going to be successful. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. And Richardson, double-digit rushes as well for the second time this season.
Yeah, I thought he looked pretty good too. He seemed like he was a little bit more confident. He obviously didn't. He looked in shape, so that was also a good thing, right? So I had to bring that up. But
dude, did you see that pass with the guy on his? Oh my gosh! Oh!
Yeah, so you can see the potential there. It's awesome. I'm glad he's back. I don't know why you would bench him in the first place. Like we've been through all of that before, but I'm glad he's back, and I'm glad he's getting ready to flourish, hopefully. But in this episode, we're also going to go through some of the playoff winners, which I think there's some decent plays here for redraft and even for Dynasty. We're going to go through some of the Thanksgiving Day matchups. We will last on a few of them a little bit longer than others because, man, there's a bad slate in the middle there. Kind of like Week 11 was kind of a bad slate. It wasn't really a fun game until Sunday Night Football. That was a good game. Week 12 slate looks a little bit better to me. We got a good – I think no matter what, the Steelers-Browns is always going to be a good game, so I'm excited for that one. And really in the noon window that we're looking here, I'm interested obviously in the Vikings-Bears. Might be good. There's some stinkers in that one, though.
I was going to say, then you got the Chiefs and the Panthers, ew. The Titans and the Texans, ew. The Colts and the Lions – the Colts show up one game a year and like show up against some really bad team. So I think this might be it. But at the same time, the spread, I think, is 11 points, 9 points, something like that. So that one could be bad. Oh, I'm very back and forth on this week as well. Just like,
the afternoon slate and the late game, though, kind of make up for it. Those are some good games.
Yeah, Bucks and Giants, we might get to see a little bit of magic there just with, know, Baker finally coming back with Mike Evans. Cowboys, Commanders, I just hope to see the Commanders beat up on them, you know. Oh, God, DeVito, it's that time, isn't it?
Tommy Cutlets, huh?
Oh, not even a little bit.
Me either.
Dude, Dynasty, I had Daniel Jones in a league. I grabbed Drew Lock because that's who they paid to be the backup. Because I was like, you know what? Danny Dimes, he's not going to make it through the whole season. I'm going to make sure I have Drew Lock on my bench as well so that I can sub him in inevitably when I get to the end. Nope, that's out the window. They want that first-round pick, which means they need DeVito.
And this is also why I like Fab instead of just waiver priority. And it's like, come on. This is why I grabbed Drew Lock. I get that in the offseason. But now, like, since they made this move, now I can go drop the Fab that I have because no one's going to do too much. But it's also like, if I'm just in waiver priority and I don't have a quarterback this week now because Daniel Jones is out and some jackwagon takes him and doesn't need him, I'm going to be angry.
Talk about getting anger. Cody's over here dropping the JWs. Folks, get out of the way when that happens here.
It's that northern hospitality. But no, I like the Seahawks Cardinals. That should be a fun game. 49ers Packers. It's almost is it a must-win game for the 49ers, you think?
I think just about every game for them is going to be must-win. They can probably lose 2 more games and still be okay, maybe even 3. But just as far as getting this team corrected, last week was the game for them to get back in pace. CMC hasn't scored a touchdown yet. Like, what? We are in week 12. And CMC has not, granted, he hasn't played but 2 games, but still, like, it's week 12, and CMC has not cashed us an anytime touchdown.
And the league that I had him in, I traded him for a first. Right when he was coming back, his practice window opened. I was like, I still don't know. So I was like, you know what? He's 28, 29. He's getting up there. If I can get a first out of him, I'm going to take the deal, and I took it fast.
Yeah, I bought him from you. He's been sitting on my bench since then.
Oh, sorry. That's 2 leagues then I've sold him in.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, definitely bought him from you during our rookie draft in the offseason.
I didn't know.
I had Jordan Mason, so it's been okay. It's worked out for me. But, yeah, it's like the first time I've owned CMC in Dynasty, and I'm like pulling out my hair. Like, of course, I should have known.
Right. So, Chargers-Ravens. What do you think about that Monday night game, the next one coming up?
I'm excited. I'm excited, especially with the Ravens dropping this past game. They really need to win it. Both these teams are willing to, they're going to have to throw the ball. Yeah, the Chargers have been all about throwing the ball ever since the bye week. I believe there's only 2 games that Justin Herbert's been below, what's his line? 237 is a 237 164. Other than that, all these games have just been absolutely blowouts for him. He's tossing it left and right. Ladd McConkey and QJ are both top 12 wide receivers since the bye week. So
yeah, and Herbert could be standing in his pocket for freaking 12 seconds if he really wanted to. He's got nothing but time back there, and he's looking real, real nice. Maybe not in fantasy wise, but man, in real life, he's looking like a great quarterback.
He's been a top 12 option for the last month. He has QB 8, 12, and 9 over the last 4 weeks. And he has Baltimore, Atlanta. KC's going to be a little tough, but then you've got Tampa Bay, Denver, and New England for the playoffs. Like, Herbert looks like somebody you can ride even in QB1 leagues for most of the rest of the season.
Speaking of non-league winners, I predicted this Atlanta fall off, didn't I? Man, 2 weeks ago they said, why would Kirk Cousins throw an out route 5 yards when he needed 7? Man, as a Vikings fan, I'll tell you, he did it for 5 freaking years.
Yeah,
that's what he does.
So, I don't know. I think the Falcons are definitely a playoff contending team, but I think that's as far as they go. Just like you said, Kirk Cousins is what it is. I feel like there's just the ceiling that he cannot get through. We saw him in that NFC Championship game a few years ago, and I think that's where it ends for him. I do think this team is very talented, but I also think that there are holes on this team, and I don't think that they're elite. We saw Denver just absolutely manhandle them in that one.
Yeah.
Big defenses are going to expose Kirk.
That, and I think the only team that's not going to, squander anything out of that division is still the Buccaneers. They're the only ones that I'm actually confident in winning that division, and I don't see that changing, especially with Mike Evans coming back. It's just, I see the Buccaneers as the best team in that division.
I just worry about their secondary. They're getting absolutely torched back there. And
you got Baker, man. You got Baker.
This is true. Baker's been playing out of his mind. And as somebody that, you were getting him in just 2 years ago, getting him in startup drafts in the double-digit rounds, 14 plus is where you're getting Baker. 12, probably closer to 12. But it's wild what his fantasy value, dynasty value, has done over the last couple of years.
For sure. I agree. So let's go to the Turkey Day games, and we'll throw in the Black Friday game because it's probably the best game on the slate, so we'll talk about it a little bit. Chicago versus the Lions on Turkey Day. That game's usually, the Lions game usually is always a little bit close until maybe the end. So is it going to be the same old Lions in that way, or do they just obliterate the Bears?
They should handle the Bears pretty well. The Bears are one of the best. You cannot pass on the Bears right now. They're shutting it down, but the Lions really don't need to do that. Jared Goff, he's been having 18 of 22, and it's still a pedestrian day for fantasy. When they have these 2 running backs, they should be able to run all over Chicago, and that should be enough to get it done. I hope that Caleb can get it done through the air because you can score through the air on Detroit. So maybe he can do enough with some big plays to kind of keep them in it. But yeah, like you said, I worry the Lions are going to run away with it by the fourth quarter.
They're definitely, and Chicago's definitely snake bitten. And this will be the second divisional game in a row for them because they get Minnesota this week. But I'm not saying the Minnesota's going to win that game. I think that's going to be a dogfight, and they might not be ready for Thursday. I'm glad Minnesota doesn't have to play after a divisional game.
Yeah, I've got the Bears upset in Minnesota.
It could easily happen, but they're a snake-bitten team, so we might come in there. And Darnold's not the best, and in zone and everything, right? So the Bears have a good pass defense, so I could see it happening. I really could.
I've got. Just because the spread's so wide, I could see where the Bears upset the Vikings this week. The Titans upset the Texans. Like I said, the Colts and Lions. I got this weird gut feeling this week. I just feel like we could have some chaos. I feel like we have most season.
Hey, I love chaos, right? The 4:30 game, 3:30 game for me. Giants, Cowboys. That's booty cheeks. Let's move on from that one. And then we have the night game, NBC. I think it could be a good game on Thanksgiving night after I have, my turkey, my stuffing, my mashed potatoes. finally have my afternoon nap because I'm not watching the Cowboys game.
That is kind of the beauty of it.
It really is.
You'll be eating right about the time of that. We start eating about the end of that first game, so I'll miss that fourth quarter, which probably should be just finish eating through the Cowboys game, take my nap, like you said, wake back up, perked up, ready to roll. Maybe an Angry Orchard or two in my hand as I'm watching the Green Bay Miami game.
I might try some of that garage beer again because it was good the first time I had it for the Kelsey brothers.
There we go.
Miami Green Bay. What are your thoughts on that game? I think that one could be the best game of the day.
I think it should be pretty competitive. Miami right now, they're in a tough spot where they're on the outside looking in, but I think they're one of the best teams that is in that position to sneak in. So every game matters for them. I think they've got like one maybe that they can drop. So this can't be the one, especially this week against the Patriots, the following week against the Packers. I still think the Packers have a good chance of winning that game, but Miami, like I said, they're going to have to come at it, and maybe they can get the deep ball rolling because this like low ADOT crap where Jonnu Smith is getting just dump off after it's killing me. It's absolutely killing me.
And I mean, I know we talked about like the 49ers are kind of a shell of themselves, but that's still going to be a physical game. And again, Green Bay is coming off of that short week to play Miami. Miami still has some of the fastest guys in the league. I think they might just be looking past them a little bit and looking at their 10-day break rather than actually playing that game. So I could see a little bit of an upset there, or at least a close game going in the fourth quarter, and then they finally snap into it. Now it's just with that game, let's just bring it up. What are we doing with Jalen Waddle? Are you trying in Dynasty? Are you trying to trade him? And in redraft, is he droppable?
In 10-team leagues, redraft 100%, he's droppable. 12-team leagues, you might have to play him this week, depending on the buys, just because, you got super buy this week and in 2 weeks, so he might be just a pivot option depending on what's on your waiver wire, but Dynasty, I'm okay. Like, he's obviously a hold. You don't sell players when they're at the bottom of, especially when he just signed an extension this summer, so, like, he's only going to go up from here. Am I saying he's going to leap up and be a top 6 guy the rest of his career? Maybe, probably not, though. But is it going to be higher, his value, probably this offseason, going into next season? Like, Tyreek's going to leave, and then Waddle will be the guy. Like, I don't know. I'm not too worried. It just sucks if you're contending with him right now.
Yeah, and it's just he's the fourth option based off of receptions and yards right now. Jonnu Smith and Devon Achane are above him, and obviously Tyreek is as well. But, yeah, like you said, it's just let's see what Miami looks like in the offseason and then maybe trade him. Because if he becomes the number one option, that's when you start flipping it around. I think that's a good call. Black Friday game, Vegas KC. Vegas can't get out of their own way, and they keep poking the bear in Patrick Mahomes. This is probably his coming out game. If I had Patrick Mahomes on any of my Dynasty teams, I'm going to be playing him Thanksgiving weekend because he hates Las Vegas, and justified. They've been pretty rude. That fan base has been pretty heinous towards him.
I just don't get why.
I don't
get why. When you're on the absolute bottom, why do you just try to pick a fight with the best quarterback we have in the league? Like, I get he hasn't been crushing it for fantasy, but he doesn't have to. When you're winning like that, he gives no craps about fantasy or stats when you're winning Super Bowls.
Exactly.
Peyton Manning, that man cared about his – I mean, he didn't really care about his stats, but, he had his stats. He was the stats guy. Why? Because we didn't have Super Bowls at the wazoo like Tom Brady. So we focused on those. Mahomes, he doesn't have to worry about that because he's winning. Maybe in 2-3 years when the team can, like, slump down a little bit, and maybe we can just be all about the offense. But right now it's the running – game in the defense.
I mean, they're going to be getting Pacheco back, so I mean, that's going to be helpful and stuff for not for fantasy wise, but for their team, yes. But I think this is the game he's like, I'm sick of these guys. Let's go torch them. So I think that might actually happen. So
yeah, middle of the day too on Black Friday. I like that.
Yeah,
evening's not ruined. Yeah, give me some of that.
That's on Prime Video if everyone doesn't remember that. But let's go to the Dynasty. Who's here and who are we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? Brian, the fantasy playoffs are right around the corner in a lot of leagues. I start one next week. But what are some playoff winners? I have a really fun one, actually, to start out with because I think in a lot of redraft leagues, And you know what? Even in some dynasty leagues, I have a defense still. We have to play the DST. If they're out on waivers, you got to go find this DST, and that's the Buccaneers, because look at this schedule for the playoff run for them. New York Giants, Carolina, Las Vegas, the Chargers, Dallas, Carolina again, and New Orleans. They're really the only hard game is the Chargers. So also that's why I'm like, I don't think Atlanta's really going to compete with the Buccaneers with that type of schedule at the end of the year. Man, I'm gobbling them up.
DST and running back for the Bucs. Yeah, Bucky Irving, I've gone out and made a few moves for.
Yep.
I had a Grand Theft Auto league this week. I had the option of stealing either him or Neighbors, and I took Bucky Irving.
Yeah.
Situationally, I've only got 2 running backs, so I need depth. There's nothing on the waiver wire. Like, I had to pick up Trey Benson just to give me some little glimmer of hope. But yeah, with DeVito coming in and just the running back, the schedule that he's got upon him, I love it. Yeah, Chargers, it could be a hard one, but we'll still see points in that game. Dallas, Carolina, that's absolutely great. As far as DSTs, Cincinnati has me like scratching my head. Just possible. I know they've been garbage, but Tennessee, Cleveland, and then you got Denver.
Ooh.
I don't know. It's one worth looking at for me. Same thing with the Colts. They've got Denver, Tennessee, and the Giants. Funny enough, all 4 of these teams, I loved correlating them in best ball. Oh, it was great. It's killing me right now because I took way more Richardson than I took Bo Nix. So those teams are done.
Yeah. You talked about Bucky Irving. What about some other running backs, play-ums? We have the 2 clear bell cow running backs, in my opinion, Mixon and Barkley. They're automatic. No matter what, you're playing those 2 for sure. But there's some other guys out there that I think are just good. If you have them, you're in a good spot. You have a good record. It seems like running back might be back.
Look, I don't want to hold my breath there and get all like too, but it might be. I was looking at it the other day before. I think it was before the week 11. Sleeper posted something like as far as points scored, 150 points. We've got over 20 running backs that have scored 150 points, and only 6 wide receivers that have hit that mark.
Yeah.
So now, where does that pendulum swing when we do all our off-season content? Are we going to abandon zero RB strategy so much that the ADP changes? Because I feel like that's what happened here. Had we not had this just 3-4 straight years of switching over to the wide receiver, maybe we wouldn't have drafted him so hard that we would have come right, closer to the middle. But I don't know. It's going to be fun regardless. I can't wait.
We'll get into that in January and stuff, but man, this is the year to get a running back, in my opinion, in the draft, and we already have a bunch of good ones. Tyrone Tracy might be a huge get now with Tommy DeVito in. I still think he's going to still produce. Monty and Gibbs in Detroit's backfield, they're going to be good. Just
Buffalo,
because
Chicago, San Francisco, yeah.
And then Bijan and Brees. I know Bijan still has been a little iffy, but
He's had some hard matchups.
Kirk clearly isn't all the way healthy either, so they might start leaning on Bijan just a little bit more. And Brees Hall, he showed last week finally who he is. Just give him the ball in space, and he's going to do good things. I do like that you brought up that only 6 wide receivers have hit the 150-point mark. Do you think most of those are in a team stack structure? Because it seems like the team stack has been really key this year in winning in fantasy, like Burrow Chase or Burrow Higgins, and then you have Goff and Amon-Ra. And it's just that seems to be really hitting home this year more than others.
Yeah, it's just I think it's just the lack of overall teams that are blowing up with the passing game. The shell defense has been a topic over the last couple of years. We just don't see so much over the top throwing. Look at the Dolphins. Yeah. Their air yards on their receivers were unreal the last couple of years, or last year and a half. All through 22 and half of 23. But the last year for the Dolphins, it's not there. It's all screen passes. It's dump offs. It's the yak that we're dealing with, but it's not at all these deep passes that Tua was throwing before. So that's really hindering some of these teams. But how do you beat that? you run the crap out of the ball. You do exactly what the Colts did this past week. You run the ball, run the ball, and then the big play opens up, and then all of a sudden, you're getting these deep bombs. So I think it's just the evolution of the game. We see it change every 3 to 4 years. Like the styles just morph just a little bit more, and I think that's what we're doing. We're coming back at it with bully ball over the athletic linebackers that we have all over, and the do-it-all safeties that can play every position.
Interesting. So Mel Kiper hates cover 2, wants to banish it. So in that case, since the pendulum is swinging, do we get rid of half-point PPR and just go back to full point? Because there's no really advantage to having a full point or half point anymore. If there's only 6 wide receivers above the 150 mark right now, and there's that many running backs, we got to even that out, Brian.
That's my fear, though. If you start giving some of these running backs a full point, like I play in a couple of PPR, but I am tried and true 90% half PPR in all my leagues because that's just my favorite. I think that distributes the points the best, or at least the way I like to play. But yeah, it's like I'm looking at it here, and it's like Jamar Chase absolutely running away with points. Amon-Ra, though, in half PPR, only 160 points. Justin Jefferson, 150. Jamar Chase 215. So if you didn't have Jamar Chase this year, like he's carrying teams.
Well, and T. Higgins was out. I think PFF has T. Higgins higher than Jamar Chase or something right now, and you're just like, come on. But that's just the case of how many games played they've had and what their numbers are and what they're looking at. What I look at is Jamar Chase has been the best wide receiver right now. And it's probably not even close compared to those fantasy numbers. But, you still put – if you have Justin Jefferson on your team and CeeDee Lamb and all that, you're still very happy with those assets. Like, don't get us wrong. It's just – yeah, it seems like the pendulum is swinging, like you said. And you said half point is your favorite. I like half point as well. But you have to have tight end premium just to make them – you have to have it relevant.
I'm pushing my redraft teams to be some sort of tight end premium. Even if it's just a quarter point extra, it adds so much. You want to know how wide receivers broken this year?
Yeah.
It kills me to see this. Jackson Smith-Njigba is wide receiver 12 on the season.
Wow.
Right now. He has had a wide receiver 1 finish and 2 wide receiver 12 finishes. Outside of that, his next highest is wide receiver 30.
Man.
So that's how broken and how low scoring wide receiver is across the board. As somebody who's able to have 3 blow-up games. One of those blow-up games was 17 points. And that's still projected him up into the upper echelon. So
with that, now, since you're on whichever website you are, and I'll ramble so you can find it a little bit, what does tight end look like in just half point? Because I'm guessing maybe Isaiah Likely is still top 20, which is crazy because he's just had the one good week. But this is why, and this is the proven fact of why we need to do tight end premium, because of just how much lower it is just with half point, and that's why you have to give him the 1 or even the 1.5 reception.
Yeah, you've got Brock Bowers crushing at 124 points, George Kittle at 119. So those guys are right there. Trey McBride's number 3 at 91. So nearly 30 points below her is that. And then when you get to tight end 6, Kyle Pitts at 84 points.
And so you're saying that's crushing at 124. While we have how many running backs above 150? 12, you said?
Yeah.
And 6 above wide receivers above 150. That's why you play tight end premium, and it makes it relevant.
And that's how, when you describe tight ends, we need to figure out a different way. Because when you say a tight end 1, we're talking about a top 12 tight end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hunter Henry is tight end 12 with 78 points. Brock Bowers has 124. So he's almost doubling the guy that's supposed to be looked at as the same. So when I talk tight ends, it's got to be like top 6, top 8, top 12 talk. You can't just call it tight end 1 anymore. Because it's... And, like, look at the guys when you go below that. We're looking at Sam Laporta, Dalton Kincaid, Jake Ferguson, Evan Ingram. These guys are all sub-tight end 14, and that's barely playable.
It really is.
On a consistent basis.
Yeah, and it's just I'm interested to see what the quarterback looks like, too, because it seems like quarterback's been a little bit more important this year just because of the downfall of the tight end position. But how do you play yardage for quarterbacks? Do you play 0.25? So 25 yards is a 0.25 points, and then 100 yards is 1 point?
I think most of my leagues are either 0.25 or 0.3.
And it just seems like that might need to get a little bit of a boost because how many 20-point performances have you seen from a quarterback this year? Not rushing.
I think it's also the passing touchdowns
You
though.
think
Like
it
look
is?
at the number of passing touchdowns we have. Joe Burrow's up there, I think at 29 or 27. But like it, they haven't been crushing it when the touchdowns come, and I think that's a big part. That's why the wide receivers are down because they're not scoring, and then the touchdowns coming from them.
Man, it's interesting, and you might get this type of stuff. Well, what is that, Brian?
We have 4 guys that have thrown 20 touchdowns this season. You got Goff, Baker, Lamar, and Joe.
Man,
And Goff and Baker weren't going as top 12 options. I know Baker wasn't, but Goff probably wasn't either. So, and then Sam Darnold's at 19. So 3 of those top 5 you weren't even looking at to have these great games. It's
in the
absolutely wild.
Scott Fish Bowl here, I got Sam Darnold as my 4th quarterback. So, and I took him underneath Will Levis. That's how low I got him.
That's
So
wild.
it's just. Yeah, quarterback's been very unpredictable this year too, and that's why it's really tough not to just grab one of those rushing quarterbacks because you're still going to have that rushing touch upside. That's why, and Jaden Daniels was the early season MVP for fantasy because he was rushing all over the place, and now he's learning to be a quarterback and throwing the ball for some dumb reason. But
Right.
but I suspect Kyler is going to be top 12 if he isn't already because of his rushing upside. Jalen Hurts always, if there's a 1 yard, I swear they're on the 1 yard line more than any other team in existence, but they have so many drives that end up on the 1 yard line for the tush push. It's really annoying. I think it's scripted, but whatever. that's a different soapbox.
Yeah.
But
I mean, top 10 quarterbacks. Yeah, you've got Kyler, you got Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and yeah, Purdy. Purdy's been running, so
Yeah.
he counts as a rushing quarterback.
And Anthony Richardson had 2 rushing touchdowns last week. He was a great player with 28 points. So it's interesting that we might need to have passing yards more relevant. We might need to bump that point total up just a tad, maybe even
a little bit.
Maybe 0.3 to what if you did 0.35 or 0.4? That would be significant, you would think.
Let's go 0.5.
Yeah, you might as well just go 0.5 at that point.
Let's go 1. Let's go a full point.
Woo! Yeah. 300-point weeks.
Have 100-point quarterback weeks.
I'm all right with that. When I had one of my first years, I got Peyton Manning his 50 touchdown year, and I was like, I'm winning because of this guy.
Oh yeah, God, I miss those days.
Yeah, I do too. But yeah, I mean, they also suspected us to have a little bit of a downfall because of all the great quarterbacks that we had, right? And it's kind of it's the same. And tennis is going through right now. See, no other fantasy football podcast is going to talk about tennis. Let's give tennis its due. Nadal is now done. Djokovic is getting old.
Serena's gone.
That was greatness in tennis. And we had greatness in football, and a lot of those guys are leaving. And Aaron Rodgers is even a shell of himself. So we're going to have a little bit of a lull here, it looks like. Now, there's still great quarterbacks out there, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes and stuff. It's just, are they at the elite status yet?
Well,
they have
the
to
issue too. Patrick Mahomes, best in the game. He's not really a fantasy football guy this year.
Yep. So that's enough of my soapbox. Let's get out of here, Brian. Where have you been, and what are you doing?
Looking for my written work, it is on the QB Lists website over there. More of my video work is going to be on the Fantasy Football Advice Network, their YouTube page. I got Too Much Fantasy Football 5 days a week. And of course, the best show that we can possibly put together is always going to be here on 4th and Dynasty with Dynasty Pros at dynastyprosfootball.com. Hanging out with Cody. You're looking for me on any social site. It's at Too Much Brian. Unless you're going to Twitter, then it's at Too Much _Brian because, I can't keep it uniform, unfortunately. Cody, where are you? Where can the people find you and all your stuff?
You can find me on Twitter as well at Cody Folden, and all my written and video work is here on Dynasty Pros. I might have a few other videos up my sleeve here soon, but we'll see.
Well, I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt, so I've got nothing cool up mine. Well, folks, we got to get out of here. Time to put it to bed. We good luck on your Week 11 matchups, and we'll see you after the Thanksgiving break when we break down all that fun.
Eat lots of turkey.
All right.